March 3rd, I think it's a Thursday, it must be a Thursday because I'm here, and you're with Marie, and like the first Thursday of every month, it is Ethan o'clock, and we've got so much to talk about this morning. So it's a very good morning to the fantastic Ethan
We're
from
back.
Outlaw HQ. How are you? We're
Good. Howdy,
back.
my everyone.
We're back.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just here working on a weird little sweater that I've been resting for quite a while. So I decided to pull this guy out of stasis and finish it up. So can't deny it doesn't look cool, but it's
Oh,
definitely a bit of
yeah.
a journey on the knitting on this guy. It's a really
Oh,
intense sleeve.
is that the Selkie, the
Selly.
one
Yeah, this is
from
the
Lina?
Selly cardigan from Lina.
Sally. Yeah.
And so I've had mine on hiatus for quite a while, but I've decided to
Yeah.
push through and finish all my whips
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna finish as many as I can during March. Somewhere around here I also have a ladies
Yeah.
lunch date tee on the go, but that's actually like that thing could practically knit itself. If anyone's thinking about doing it, like it's a no-brainer to knit
Yes.
Julie's pattern. Whereas this one,
Yeah.
a little bit more of a brainer. Um not it's the knitting isn't hard, it's just not fast because it's a fingering weight yarn on a 3mm
Mm.
needle. And the Rosamine technique, this little cool stuff that I'm working here, it's just tricky. I wouldn't call it difficult, I would just refer to it as tricky. And you have to really
Fiddly? Yeah, sort of, yeah, fiddly, yeah.
fiddly. Oh yeah, it's quite fiddly. You have to really like move things around
Yeah.
and reorganize stuff a lot as you're knitting. And I made the executive decision partway through to stop cutting the contrast color yarn. She tells you to cut it after every time that you color change,
Oh.
but it's actually not like I don't find it necessary. And I figured out a way to carry it
Yeah.
without distorting the gauge. And so now I'm just carrying it up along the inside and it's going much faster, which is great. But at the same time,
Oh, that's good. And of course, and then you'd have all that annoying sewing in and stuff after.
yeah, and I mean, I could pretend otherwise, but I mostly hand that off to my delightful team of people downstairs now when it comes to weaving and ends, unless it's a seamed garment, because I like to do that myself. I now I just kind of like abandon the ends, and thankfully Helen
Yeah.
and Nikki take pity on me in my busy schedule, and they weave them in before I block, which is awesome. I'm very grateful for that. And then, but yeah, so
Oh, that's good.
this is what I'm chipping away at for the next couple of days. And I've realized that kind of alternating through these whips is really helping at the moment. My brain space just seems to die
Yeah.
suddenly. I don't know about the rest of you, but lately it's like I've got a couple of good hours in me and then I'm just like for the rest of the day. So it's been a, pushing little fits and starts. But this guy is currently, I don't know, just kind of moving along, which is a great feeling. But the chart is super weird. If any of you decide to knit this, like just in advance, getting used to reading the chart is its own challenge because the floats cross the stitches. They're not made in the stitches and the floats are on the outside. So it's just not like reading other charts. And so you always think to yourself as you're going like, oh, this looks so easy and this is
Yeah.
going so well. And then suddenly partway through, you're like, oh God, what on earth have I managed to do here? Which is kind of a classic thing in my case. But yeah. Have you got much on the needles? What's going on with you? I just realized this is like the first time where we're catching up where we haven't actually
What's
caught
going?
up.
I know. It has been a bit sort of like that. I have made progress on full sweater, but I've had a sort of week where I haven't done any knitting at all. But I have now got a full. Hold on, let's get this around the right way. I now have a full back
Ooh,
on my
there we
sweater.
go.
There
Oh
we
yeah, you
go.
did some
So
moves
got
on
a
that.
back. Yeah, and I have a sleeve.
Oh,
So I
well,
have
see,
half a
that's half the battle.
sweater.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have half a sweater, and I should really be doing more of that. But to be honest, I have just needed. I've just needed a little bit of a mental. Not this is difficult at all. I'll be brutally honest. It's not difficult. It's the Henley Limerick Henley, which was an interweave winter 2017. It's just that I've been just with getting prepped for Epic Sale and work, and there's just a lot of other things. Yeah, people are saying it's really interesting. Everyone is saying I'm very, very blurry and it's as clear as good as gold. It actually in my screen it's the reverse. Ethan is very blurry and I'm as good as gold. To be honest, you're better off having Ethan in high definition and me looking blurry. I probably look younger.
Well,
Considering I've got
I mean,
a very
I will
significant birthday
say
coming up soon.
I'm sitting in a studio that I've built for this purpose, everyone. So I have studio lighting all around me. And a specifically tuned backdrop that doesn't interfere with camera, which is what makes me look like I'm popping out of your screen at you. You're welcome.
Yeah,
3D for next
there you
year.
go.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time
Right,
experimenting with this.
See, I'm sitting in the bedroom next to
Yes.
because this is the best natural light I've got, and it's probably the quietest space that I have. I'm crocheting.
Oh, is
That's
that
what
the
I'm
scrap
doing.
blanket out for another tour of duty?
It's just, yeah, well, this is the next one, yeah. So as you can see, I've sort of got different colours rolling through. But I was quite excited because this is where I'm at. And so the rule with this particular scrap blanket is that it's all sort of tonal printed yarns. And then in thread waste yesterday, look what came in. Oh, so there's enough there to finish it. So I'm quite excited about that. It's saying my sound and picture is really bad. Unfortunately, there's not a lot I can do about that. I don't know why. Oh, hold on. Maybe. Hold on. Let's try this. Okay. It's like, no, I can't do anything while I'm in the broadcast, I'm afraid. It's saying down there. Right. So, very blurry. Oh, well. Just pretend just pretend you're looking at me after a few glasses of wine, Pauline. And there
I
you
can
go.
say
I'll
after
probably
a few
come back
glasses of scotch, she does look like this in person.
Actually, from personal experience, but there you go. So what else has been happening? So that's what I've got going at the minute, and of course we've got Epic Sale starting on Saturday.
Yes. So I mean, you're not going to be busy
So
at all.
yes. No, not at all. Not at all.
What's even better is you get to roll right from Epic Sale right into Nick's. Oh my god.
I know. It's so funny because I was in at work briefly yesterday because I had to. I'm going to show you what I had to go and pick up. Not that anyone can see it because I'm blurry, obviously. But I was in there yesterday and all the Nicks was sitting down by the shelves, and I just said to Kay when I walked past it, I went, "Oh, it looks so good."
I know.
And yeah. And it was just like, oh, I can't wait.
Well, it does kind of feel a little bit, and like I've said this before on our broadcast about it, but it does feel a little bit like Deb made the NYX palette just for me this year. Like I know she didn't, but like if you saw that coming, you'd be like, oh, someone designed yarn for Ethan. Great. I'm not sure if you and Claire had that moment, but like, come on, that's pretty much a straight pitch down the middle of my colors. So
yes,
yeah.
Yes. No, there are certainly what I would call the Ethan's greatest hits in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then there are some. I don't know. Well, I'm really excited. I've obviously been talking about it nonstop on our stuff. Also, because I've already finished my first NYX project because I knit out of stash. And so I made a Bluma by Nora Gone, which is at home, but it is done. I'll send you a picture later.
So, yeah, yes, please. Well, yes, so I've got these, which you guys probably can't see, but these are the most beautiful chain plied, the softest, luscious.
Chain plied.
These
how did you talk Peter into that?
Yeah. No, it's not ours.
Oh,
it isn't ours. It's it's Anchor Spun. So we
okay.
So we got these from Alpaca Yarns, and yes, these are going in the sale. So I've got to photograph these because with the couriers, I can't at the moment. I can't get anything up to Steph, so I'm having to do those. I know, but hopefully that'll get resolved soon.
Yeah.
And then we also got those too. Look,
Ooh,
pretty.
those are
So
lush.
those are going. So that's what I'm up to today. Yes, very good, very good. Now, speaking, so you've done Bloom by Nora. Now, are you going to
Hmm.
be getting Nora's new book on? Because, I mean, man, that woman, I mean, how old would she be now? Charles might know this question, actually,
Charles will
because he's
probably
in the
know.
chat. Ballpark, Charles.
I think she's probably about 64 this year, if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh, she's
Um,
still a spring chicken then.
yeah. So I've been on the blower to Abrams Books,
Yes,
the
because the new
publisher.
book is stunning. Yeah,
Yeah. Knit, fold, repeat is like, I
yeah,
guess the thing with Nora is I always think that she's kind of found the upper limits of what we can really do with new knitting techniques or with old knitting techniques considered in a new way, right? And I think every
yeah,
time that you
yeah.
finish one of her more experimental patterns as a knitter, thanks, Charles. Um, every time that you finish one of her more experimental patterns with as a knitter, you end up at this place where you're like, okay, well, that's got to be as far as you can go. Like chain link to me
Yeah.
still stands out as one of her biggest masterpieces because it's just so unexpected. Like the way that you form the shapes that make that pattern, just it doesn't occur to your brain until you're doing it, and you're like, okay, cool. Um,
Mm,
and knit, fold, repeat is really an exploration of the dimensionality of knitwear. And you can see
mm,
this exploration in some of her earlier work. But the thing to remember about her is she has literally, I've been told by someone who's been in her home before, thousands of swatches. Like just thousands of swatches that she's never used. So there's a great
mm,
example of this if you go back
yeah.
into Brooklyn Tweed Men #2, the Jackdaw pullover. I can't remember where the interview is, but she discussed the design process that went into that. And it's a swatch, a cabled rib swatch that she made in the 80s that she just never found a yarn that expressed it quite right. And I think as there's more
Mm,
and more yarns available on a consistent basis that allow her to play with these ideas, um, you end up with these more and more inventive ideas. Nora is 61. There we go. Oh, Charles, you're so
so
good.
everyone, thank you, Charles. Gosh, I hope you didn't message her, Charles. She'll be thinking, why are these people wanting to know how old I am? Well, this again, I think too, as you said, it is an expression because I mean, I'm doing shoji, which was part of that whole origami sort of theme
Yeah,
that you went to, and knit, fold, repeat really is an extension of that
absolutely.
sort of
And
concept.
I
Yeah.
don't know about you, but I looked through all the patterns and I found 6 or 7 that I would actually want to make because they're just
Mm,
so interesting and clever. And I guess for me, like I've been talking a lot recently with the people in my different knitting spaces about the fact that I'm quite done with seamless knitting at the moment. Sorry, everyone.
mm,
um, and I've been playing with a design for Ooh, I've been playing with this one design, which is called Fletcher. It exists as a hat that's going to come out probably either next week or the week after for purchase. But it actually, Fletcher leads into a whole set of patterns. There's a sock, there's a mitten, and there's a pullover. And so I've been playing around for ages and ages with the idea of this Fletcher pullover as a seamless construction and how to do a seamless cabled Aran in a way that was interesting and that wouldn't detract from the structure and beauty of it. And I wanted to knit this specifically in a superwash yarn, which is not my normal go-to, to show people the capacity of
mm,
superwash yarn for memory and forgiveness when it's knit at the right gauge, which is roughly, I would say, one
mm.
full American needle size or a half millimeter size smaller than what you would normally knit it on. So in this
Yeah.
case, the Fletcher pullover is knit entirely, except for the ribbing at the collar and the ribbing at the sleeves, is knit entirely on one size of needle. It's knit on a 4.5 millimeter needle. And I played around with the seamless construction. I made a couple of versions of it. I frogged them. And I've decided to go back to the way I like to design things, which is knit flat with a set-in sleeve. And it's not everyone's thing, and I get that. So there's also bobbles involved, so good luck. And then I also wanted to play with the idea of gradiated cables, as in changing the size of cables across the different size spectrums so that it's visually balanced. Because there's nothing worse than when designers release a pattern with a cable central pattern, and as the sizes get bigger, there's just like more and more reverse stockinette or seed stitch or stockinette on the edges. Yeah, and it's just, honestly, that's a slap in the face to knitters who are doing the work to make a bigger size pullover. Give them some more cables. Like, it's not that hard. Pick 3 rope cables of different sizes and alternate them across it. Like, Michelle Wang laid the template out for doing this. It's not a new idea. And so my idea with this whole Fletcher series is exploring the idea of one cable pattern used on multiple different different pieces over and over again, and stacking and layering it to make more and more interesting ideas and pieces. And I've ended up at a place where I've just decided that the way I design things is flat. And I don't need to go and do these seamless designs and stuff like that, because if you really want a seamless cabled pullover, don't worry, sorry, Nordland is here for you. But if you want to make something that's beautiful and durable and lasting, especially in a superwash yarn or in a woolen spun yarn, you really want to be knitting that sucker with seams, because it extends the longevity and the beauty of your garment. And what I found the most frustrating about the method of knitting this in the round was that because the cable is so graphic and centrally placed, all I could see visually was the biasing once you get to a piece of fabric that big. And I hate it. And it had raglan shoulders, and that's not really a thing I design around, because I like a set-in sleeve. Mostly because the set-in sleeve works for almost everybody, right? Like Marie and I could put on the same size pullover, like a pullover that fits Marie and a pullover that doesn't fit me with a set-in sleeve. It'll look great on both of us. That's the difference between a set-in sleeve and a raglan, right? And so we're going to be going on a bit of an exploratory journey of Ethan's knitting brain in the next 2 years, including some color work knit flat. So brace yourselves for re-entry into that if you haven't done it in a while. And fully seamed knit flat colorwork cardigan with a shawl collar. So, and by the way, the collar is not picked up. It's knit separately and sewn on. Hi, how are ya? I'm sure everybody's excited for this now. They're like, who is this sociopath and why is he designing this knitwear? Because I want it. And yeah, so I guess I'm sure that Charles would agree with me. I'm assuming Charles would agree with me that this approach, this historical approach, this going back to structural ideas, because everybody's knitting skills have come so far and have been pushed so far by seamless top-down knitting, it means that nobody is going to struggle to make these knit flat seamed things that I'm designing, because you've already done so many things that are much more difficult and produced not nearly as enjoyable of a finished product. And I will apologize in advance for anybody who does it, because you have to seam through 4 layers of fabric at one point. Yeah.
But look, we've spoken before, you and I, though, about the structural importance of a seam. You know, a seam just isn't there to attach 2 pieces together, particularly in a shoulder and a 7 sleeve. The sleeve is also there to provide maintenance of shape and structure. It helps prevent a garment from stretching. In particular, I'm glad you brought up bias, because bias is something that as a yarn manufacturer we're actually really aware of. So what that means to anyone listening is that when we place obviously the twist into a yarn, we generally then place that yarn, either if it's a natural yarn, into an autoclave process or in the dyeing process, to actually essentially block the yarn before it is balled, to move any of that potential energy that's been built up during the spinning process. And that actually helps remove this twisting in and on itself that can happen, which is called bias. And we do see it sometimes with a very high twist yarn.
Yeah, like
And
a crepe yarn, like a
that's the
4x4
thing.
eightfold construction.
Yeah, exactly. And so it needs to, it is something that, we are very, very aware of as a manufacturer. And unfortunately, when you're doing lots of knitting in the round and you're spiraling around in circles, the minute that's when, if you've got a yarn that hasn't been quite set as much as you want it to be, that you can actually get this bias. And what it is in the tube of what it is you're knitting, there's actually a slight twist in there. And if it's a very plain sort of pattern, it just, your eye draws to it, doesn't it? And you just can't help not see it. So it is certainly, and that, of course, you just do not get that when you're working flat. It just doesn't happen. Like if it's, I know that when we've had people come back to us, like other just clients, it's generally though in sock yarns where it happens, because of course they'll run this thing through a sock machine and you'll see the bias happening in the sock machine. So it's
absolutely
good. Molly is asking, Tecumseh, did you use 4mm needles? My gauge is 26, but the pattern says 22 stitches. Appreciate your guidance.
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. I did not swatch for Tecumseh because I was knitting it with 30 centimeters of ease. So if I was out a little bit, I really wasn't worried. I would say if you're knitting the pattern with the intended amount of ease, Molly, because of the size of it, be more concerned with your row gauge than your stitch gauge. If it comes out slightly larger when it's already so oversized, it's going to be just fine, because interestingly, the way that she's placed the bands of color work creates the density that supports the garment. So you don't need to worry so much. Now, Molly, you're going for a little bit less ease, but if it comes out with a little bit more, it's going to hang a little bit better. That's kind of the idea of the pattern, is she's playing with the idea of volume over fit. And because of how deep down your arm that yoke ends, the extra ease makes it much more wearable. So I would advise, if you're going ahead to knit the Tecumseh, if you've gotten slightly larger stitch gauge, but your row gauge is accurate, your row gauge is much more important for this pattern than your stitch gauge, because you don't want to come out with this too short. Because I don't think, if it's too cropped or too short at any point, it's not going to sit on the body correctly. And while there are many things we could say about Caitlin's designs, she does actually have a really clear conceptual idea of how ease interacts with the body. And I think that's why people end up knitting her designs over and over again. Like, to me, she has some designs that are just a hard pass. Like, I would never knit Sunset Highway. I don't like it as a pattern. It's not a criticism of her as a designer. It's a criticism of what I think the final garment is. And that's probably her most fitted design. And Sepelia as well is another one that's kind of got some question marks. But when she started exploring ease in her patterns, like if we think about Ghost Horses, that cute one that has the like merry-go-round horses on it, and Tecumseh and Guthrie, where they're designed to hang from the edge of the shoulder, structured through a round yoke, I think that that's where you start getting into Caitlin's stronger design ethos. And over time, she's definitely leaned more and more into those constructions in a way. Her outlier patterns are now starting to become her central design aesthetic. And what I do like about her as well is she definitely is not a plug and play designer. When you look at her different patterns, you're getting significantly different needle sizes and stitch counts and row gauges and stuff like that, because she is designing a new garment every time. She's not recycling a stitch count. And like, I'm not going to lie, as a designer, I do tend to recycle stitch counts at a certain point, because like, there's only so many ways to put stitches together to make a 120 centimeter bust when you're knitting flat in stockinette stitch. Like, you come out to the same math. Anyway,
Yeah.
that might just be me. So this is the world's most long-winded answer. You're welcome, everyone.
Lynn's also asking me, does autoclaving actually deal permanently to twist and bias issues though? It depends on the fibre, Lynn. It depends on the fibre and it depends on the twist.
Yeah.
It deals to it mostly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
If it was
when
like
you start
three
pushing things
loosely
to
spun ply. Yeah. Sorry.
yeah, when you start sort of pushing stuff to extremes, then that's when you'll start seeing sort of issues. So that's why whenever we have a yarn that's an extreme, like probably the one, and I mean this is, I think I know why you're asking this question, because it's a yarn that you're actually used to using, and actually it's a yarn that Outlaw have too, which is that high the sock bandit yarn, which is that very high twist sock yarn. That is probably one of the yarns that we have that is pushing right to that extreme. And the bias issue is neated partially because of the superwash shrink treated fibre that we use, so that actually helps pull it back. But yeah, it's oh, there we go. The twist on twist seems to have issues, but it is extreme. Yeah, and and that's just it. When you've got that much twist in there, particularly the DK. So I think that's a 444 by 4 by 8 or 4 by 6. So you've got lots and lots and lots of strands, very fine strands, all twisted together, and then all twisted together again. So yeah, absolutely. And again, things will be negated with a little with the autoclaving, and then also the dyeing and further blocking and all of those sorts of things. So it's just something to be aware of, really.
If you pick up a ball of the modern, most recent batch of like Ashford Merino DK, it has what I would refer to and would have historically been referred to as a crepe texture, because it is each ply is made of 2 plies, and so it's high twist plies that are then plied in a high twist manner that are then plied together. So you're dealing with an 8-fold construction that's probably closer, if you were to look at the twist ratios, to like a 16-fold construction because of the twist. And what we mean by that is the number of edges of each strand that you're going to see on an individual stitch. So if you're knitting with something like that, and you're knitting it to the correct gauge, then you're going to see much less biasing. I find when I have knitters come in that are seeing that, it's often when it's entirely knit in the round, because that fabric is already biased because you're working in a helix. You're not working in a loop, right? You're not working flat in rows. You're working in a helix. Whereas as well, a quite loose gauge tends to also give the yarn more freedom to do what it wants. And if it wants to bias, it's going to bias if you give it space to bias. Knit that sucker tight. For example, knit on 3mm. Oh God, I can't believe I'm doing this. A whole cardigan on 3mm.
Yeah.
Jesus, someone shoot me.
Yes, but it's going to look fabulous for an incredibly long time.
Yeah, I mean, if like this is going to be like if you and I ever decide for some reason to go like hiking on Aoraki or something like that, this will be the cardigan I reach for. And if I ever suggest that, it's time to have me committed, right? Because like I've clearly lost it if I want to go hiking. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, it's crazy. So anyway, let's cycle back round to before we went off on a tangent. You've spoken to the publisher about Nora's new book.
I've spoken to the publisher. They're hopefully going to get back to me. They don't have a direct representative here in New Zealand. Now, I have confirmed that Scorpio Books down here in Christchurch, our local bookseller, will be getting in copies. Now, just to let everyone know, one of them already has my name on it, so good luck to you. And I have warned them that I was going to tell people this would happen. So just because I have the Twisted Stitch source book and the Knitted Cable source book, so I require knit, fold, repeat. And in case anyone's wondering, I am on a hunt for Knitting with Nature, which is apparently no longer in print, which is a tragedy. So yes, so it will be.
Let me talk to you about. I will talk to you about that once we're finished.
Okay. But yes, so that's the news. It is coming in. Local booksellers will be able to get it. It's just that book publishing houses have very specific streams of sale that they've built to help local bookstores stay afloat. So they're not necessarily they it's not that they don't want to sell the books to us, it's just that they don't sell books outside of local bookshops these days because they're trying to compete with big companies.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's certainly a thing. Right, very good. Well, I mean, for us at the minute, we've still got Yarnology in, but everything is just about Epic Sale. It's just for the next couple of weeks.
So
Now, for
Epic Sale
those
is
who
coming.
I haven't called,
Have you
Epic
started
Sale
telling
is
people what's
coming,
going
and
on sale? How do we do that with you guys these days?
Yes, so we can. I actually am been quite good. We've got our two little yarns we're doing in the Epic Sale, a baby bandit and sock bandit, since we've been talking about sock bandit this morning. And just as I was waiting for Ethan to arrive, the photos from Steph for the new colours came, which I'll email you once we're done. So
cool.
I have got the new, which we haven't had online, so they've been. Had a bit of. There we go.
There we go. We're
Pausing.
back.
There we go. Sorry, I just saw. Yeah, we're back. I just saw the signal drop off. So all the colours the new colours are now uploaded. So that's exciting. And as you may have seen, there was a certain order that went in this week. So we've got getting plenty of stock in. So that's very good.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see those things. No, I do.
Yeah. So it's good. So we've got there's definitely some new stuff. We've got some. It's the biggest thing is it's a great time to stock up because unfortunately, and I know that you guys are falling into the category as well. We all are, I think. Price increases. We've April 1 for us. I know you guys had some. Yeah, exactly. We're the same too, and there's no way around it. And Ethan will tell you as a retailer, you hate sticking the price up. We hate sticking the price up.
Oh,
but
it's like the most nerve-wracking thing we do.
And it is nerve-wracking, and we've worn a lot of sort of increases, but this last sort of flow-on effect of increases, particularly around wage and fibre, it's just we just can't, we just simply can't, and so it's got a knock-on effect done everywhere. So we've this Epic Sale will be great because it's obviously a lot of the stock that's it's not the new stock coming in being affected by these increases. So this will be a really great chance to get it. Vicky, will there be plenty of Urban Deluxe in the sale? No, actually, the short answer to that, Vicky, is no. It's actually the last of the Urban Deluxe. So I would definitely get in quick on the Urban Deluxe. Actually, you've obviously been quite clever and had a look. I've started loading over. So we've got our sale page, and on the sale page are the things that are disappearing, like once they're gone, they're gone. Things that have kind of got deeper distance will be there, because essentially any Skeinz yarn, all Skeinz yarn will be on sale. So you can actually go to any sort of Skeinz category and those yarns will be on sale. But I'm not going to stick everything on the sale page, or you end up with 15 pages of sale page and it gets just all a bit too much. Janet, will the Southlander be restocked? Into sale, no, is the short answer to that. We have had some come back in, and there might be some that comes in during the sale, because it has been on order ongoing, and there will be yarns. And I can tell you, for example, vintage board is a really classic example of this. The container's actually due to land next with us next week probably, so anything that's sitting out of stock on that page will actually appear during the sale, so do hang out that. And Vicky, yes, I know everyone loves Urban Deluxe. It's because we've moved it across into Flight Merino, so the best selling colours from Urban Deluxe have actually, if you have a look, have been moved into Flight Merino. So, and it's just, again, it's a value thing. We just needed to make sure that we had a machine washable, very good value machine washable yarn, and Flight Merino offered us to be able to do that at a better value than our Urban Deluxe. So it's always a balancing act. I mean, Ethan will tell you what a balancing act everything was.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Lately, it's like walking
I
a
don't
tightrope, holding 2 plates on the end of a stick. We're doing our best, friends. Trust us. Um,
I
like,
know, and I think yeah, and the other thing too is of course is the couriers and stuff. So we are forging ahead with the sale. Many of you I know saw New Zealand couriers. Our heart goes out to them. Their depot and sorting centre in Auckland has been hit hard with COVID, so they are in critical at this stage, but they're hoping to move through that as they're part of the program where you can sort of test out. So they're hoping by next week that things will improve there. But you know what? It's a beautiful thing about yarn. It doesn't go off.
yeah,
It's not perishable. So it's just the biggest thing that I'm saying is that we will work and they will work their very best to get things to you overnight or in 2 days in their normal fashion. But you know what? If it takes up to a week or so, don't panic. It will get to you. It's just that
yeah.
I think we just need to be a little bit flexible in these times at the minute.
The
Just a
good
little
news
bit more
is,
flexible. And two, yes,
yeah, the good news is too,
good
guys.
news
Like,
is,
if you're waiting for yarn to come in, you can always pop over to my Ravelry page and you can always play with all of my favorites and bundles that I've got on there to look at stuff that you might want to make. So that's always a good idea. And sometimes dreaming about our projects is just as nice as having the yarn in hand. So let's remember that we've got a little bit of wiggle room and stuff to play with. And yes, I will say here at
mm,
Outlaw, we are really lucky. We were able to get in with a new courier right before the Christmas rush. That was great. Obviously, we don't have quite the selection of skeins, although we're trying our best. But keeping up with Marie is difficult to say the least. But if you do need something suddenly and you're having a hankering, and Skeinz is obviously doing their best. I just want to stress this fact. No one at Skeinz works harder than Damien during Epic Sale. That poor man.
I know.
Yeah. And but don't worry, we're all here. We've all been kind of like stuck in this limbo for a while. And we know this. Like everybody, you know, the good
Mm,
news is, as Marie said, she's really right. Yarn doesn't go off. And this is stock up when
no.
you're purchasing from Skeinz sort of sale idea. So, if you're aiming for that new hot color, probably not the time to buy it. Let's aim for those classics that we know we're going to reach for, right? We want the navies, we want the burgundies, we want the creams.
Mm,
Lean into those colors, get big stocks of them on hand. They're fabulous bases for your color work. If there's still flight naturals around, like those are a great thing to stock up
yep.
on.
Oh,
And you can always
and
mix and
with
match your
an
flight natural with
incredible
banded
price.
DK. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah, incredible price on that. Yeah.
yeah, so these are the things to think about while you're looking at this ordering process. Like I would say if I was a person rushing into this Skeinz sale, which I'm not because when I want things from Skeinz, they somehow just appear in my life. Surprise. If you are going into this Skeinz sale to shop, Ethan's best advice, my tips and tricks for getting through the Skeinz sale with the most amount of joy and the least amount of smashing your head off your desk is going to be this. Stick to the colors that you know that you're going to knit with. And if you're someone who's
Mm,
sitting there like, I don't know what colors I like to knit with. Yes, you do. Get your hand knits out and look at them. Buy those colors because those are the colors you're going to reach for throughout the
mm,
year. Those colors that are a little bit more on the outlier side for you, those brights maybe, or if you're the opposite, some people knit with all brights, hello Helen, and no neutrals, then steer into your staple colors when you're shopping
mm,
sale because that way you've got a big base to work from. And as you need other colors throughout the year, if you're doing color work, if you want to add a stripe, if you like a contrasting cuff or a nice detail somewhere on your piece, or you want to do some embroidery, then come back to us and do the purchasing of, your 18 color range bandit where you can get all of those additional colors. But shop for
mm,
your basics. Navy, cream, red in my case. Those are the three I would shop for.
mm,
And maybe some pink. And so I think that's the other good thing.
mm.
Have a plan going into any sale. Don't go into a sale
Yeah.
with no plan. Because if you go into a sale with no plan, you're definitely going to get a lot of yarn and you're definitely going to be really happy, but it's going to live in your stash. And we want you to stash and stock up and then knit it. Because guys, we hate to tell you this, we've got more yarn
Yeah.
to sell you. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
Surprise.
And actually, I know, and planning is one of the things that I talk about before.
Yeah.
The other thing that you can do as well is know how much you need, what a garment quantity of 4-ply yarn looks like for you in meters, what a garment quality in 10-ply or 8-ply looks like for you in meters. So then that way, when you're purchasing, even if you don't have a specific pattern in mind, you know for you, you need 1,400 meters of a DK yarn, or you need 1,000 meters of a 4-ply yarn. So then that way you can buy amount and then actually match those up with a pattern later on. If you do have a pattern already that you think, yes, I want to knit this, I've got knit, fold, repeat, and I want to knit a variety of patterns, do add, I would definitely, if it's not a stock item, if it's something new, add a 20% contingency. If it's a stock item, you could get away with a 10 to 15% contingency, but I definitely 20%, only because a lot of what we're putting out are coming back, or it's a one-off, and I mean, it breaks my heart when I get those emails.
Remember, Sock Bandit is a fantastic garment yarn. Both Marie and I can attest to that 100% of the way. It's awesome to knit with, awesome to wear, but every one of those colors is a one-off. We don't bring them back. So if you're shopping Sock Bandit from us, especially during the sale, make sure that you're buying enough. And when in doubt, buy a bag plus 20%. So that's 10 balls plus 2.
Yeah.
Because very rarely do you end up in a situation where with that much yarn, you can't get through a whole garment. And the other good thing to remember is, you know, Baby Bandit and the Flight Naturals work really well together. So if you want big pops of color, you know, we've got our 2 Fantasy and Wish that have just come out, which you'll see on the website, and Intrepid, and you can blend those all together. And shopping multiple price points during the sale lets you stretch that yarn budget. So aim for some of those big ticket items, but as I keep saying, stock up on those ones where there's the steep discounts, and then, you know, add some bonus yarn. Like if you have a yarn budget set for this and you're spending up to a certain amount, fill up on what you need first, go around. It's like going to a buffet. You know, you always start with what's the best deal at a buffet? The roast. And then you go from there. And so we want to stock up on those things that we need first, and then add the luxuries and the bonuses later. And remember, if you're knitting something with ruffles, that ruffles eat yarn like nobody's business. And also we have questions. I have questions for why you're knitting ruffles, unless it's for a child.
Speaking of raffles in this case, Marie Raffles is asking, you like to shop in colour, can this function be added to the site? The short answer is, in theory, yes, but it is a massive amount of work to do so. So it is something that we won't be doing because we're actually in the process of moving to a new site. That is one of the questions that we've put to actually have added to the new site. But when it comes to actually doing these things in websites, behind the scenes, adding extra categories and functionality like that is actually surprisingly tricky. The other big thing that we need to let you know as well, if you haven't caught up on this already, is the actual physical store is going to be closed for the duration of the sale. And I know that you may think that that sounds absolutely bonkers, but the reason for that is that Omicron has actually really started to take off here in Hawaii, and it's the only way that we can make sure that, because I mean, all of you who are locals who have been to the store during sale, with every will in the world of maintaining physical distancing and being careful and cautious, honestly, it just goes out the window when it comes to sale. And so it's a way of keeping our customers safe, but also making sure that no one in our team inadvertently gets infected. It's just about minimising risk, because the minute someone in the team gets infected, everything grinds to a halt, and we don't want to have that happen. So hence the reason why I am here in the home bubble at the moment, is that I am working from there, and then I actually moved. They're actually literally quarantining me off in the office for the duration of the sale. For locals, for phone orders, I'm only doing those between essentially our opening hours, which is 10 till 2 Monday through Friday, because the rest of the time will be literally all that digital housekeeping, because things move so quickly, answering inquiries. So, you know, email is still number one. but we will, we will be there. And we've got Damien. This is the one time of year we give Damien lots of support. So we've got 2 full-time teams running through to get all of those parcels picked and dispatched the best we can. So midnight. If you start Saturday, so midnight Saturday online, so do check that out. I mean, there are some great stuff. There's these alpacas, as I mentioned, I've got here. I've got a new incognito yarn coming in, which is a woolen spun possum, which is just this. The photography for that arrived this morning as well. So those will be up and they will be on the sale page, and they're utterly gorgeous. So there is lots of really fun stuff to have. Right, I think we've gas bagged enough. We're going to let these people get on with their day. And so hopefully we will see you with Epic Sale across the next couple of weeks. And then actually you and I might need to have another date at the end of the month to talk next. Yeah. Well, either that was the following week, but yeah. So excited.
Because Nix is coming.
All right, until then, everybody. Nix is coming. All right, we'll see you all then. Take care.